Welcome to Canada's podcast.
Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi with Calgary's podcast on Canada's Podcast Network. Joining me today is Addison Parfenuk, who is CEO of Two Small Men with Big Hearts Moving. Thanks for joining us today, Addison.
Glad to be here.
All right, let's start. Give me a little history of the company and how you started it.
Sure. I actually didn't start it. It's been around since 1982. And a couple of guys in Surrey, they bought a truck and they put an ad in the Vancouver Sun for their moving service, and they didn't get many calls. So I guess they tried a few different names. I don't know all the names that they tried, but eventually they tried Two Small Men with Big Hearts, and the phone just rang off the hook. Customers thought it was cute or funny and felt comfortable enough to give them a call. And they were off to the races from there. And it's true today in a competitive ad space, Two Small Men with Big Hearts really stands out. So from there, it grew as a franchise model. And I think that's probably one of the best ways to grow a business in that time before technology. The playbook for these guys was really to buy a truck and get Dennis was the name of the guy who painted all the trucks by hand, just with freehand with the paintbrush, and put an ad, a half page or a full page in the yellow pages, and you got a business. So you got this entrepreneur that goes and starts in a new market, Calgary or Lethbridge or wherever, and part of the result of that has been, as we've kind of bought and consolidated more of the locations into our corporate model. When I go to markets like Grand Prairie or Saskatoon, people say, when I tell them I'm with Two Small Men with Big Hearts, they say that started here, right? And I think it sort of did start there, because an entrepreneur really started it from scratch there. But really, it started in Vancouver in the early 1980s.
How did you get involved and when?
In 2011, I came on the scene. And my partner and I bought the Edmonton franchise. And so we had tried a couple of different moving businesses and different moving brands, but we got involved with these Two Small Men guys. And we bought the Edmonton franchise, and the Edmonton operator had retired. And they had these, some unbelievable furniture movers. Many of them had worked for the previous operator or for other locations. Yep. And we just followed that same little playbook and had a great little business in Edmonton. And the trouble was, at that point, many of the franchise relationships were somewhat fragmented, and the franchisees weren't really working. It really ran more like 20 independent moving businesses that had the same name. And so we kind of set out to get the offices working together. We thought, this brand is incredible and it's so powerful. And with this, we have this great little business in Edmonton. Imagine what this could be if everyone was working together. We could grow our long haul business and grow our market. And still at this point, 2011, if you can imagine, 2012, 2013, the primary lead source for the business is the Yellow Pages book. Wow. And so we thought, we have to get everybody working together on a new marketing strategy. We have to have one consolidated website. So we tried to work with some of the offices and get things going. And eventually it made sense for us to begin buying the locations. And one of the things we really wanted to work on was, there's some of these stories from the early days where Two Small Men with Big Hearts was really a community-focused business. Yeah. And so even there's stories about the flood of '97 in the Red River in Winnipeg, where movers from across the country went out to Winnipeg to help the sandbagging efforts. And we just thought, we can really be the guys with the big hearts, but we got to get everybody working together. So. So we started buying out the locations.
So when you look at the company right now, Addison, what's your reach? How many locations do you have, and from where to where in the country?
There's locations from Ottawa to Victoria, and we own most of them in Western Canada. There's a couple of great franchisees that still operate, Regina and Abbotsford, but in most locations in Western Canada, we run corporate locations, and that's been one of the kind of the most fun things about my journey, has been actually going and buying these operations. We You negotiate the deal with the operator who's been there for 20 years, and it's his
Yeah.
baby, and that's sort of exciting in itself. And then in every example, over the years, I've actually moved to the city for 3, 6 months, or a year, depending on how big the office was. Figured out the trucks, brought the bookings into our system, usually from a paper binder into our operating system, and got to meet the movers, the talent, which
Yeah.
is what we bought the place for in the first place. And they have such interesting stories and such a unique experience with our brand and in the history, and a niche strategy for loading a truck or for servicing the customer. And in every case, they're scared of a new buyer and of change, but they're willing to kind of give us a shot. So that's been really exciting over the years.
So how many total locations do you have right now?
Okay, we own 10 locations,
Yeah.
and there are 6 or 7 others.
That are franchise.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Obviously, planning for future growth. More locations coming.
Yeah, there's a couple of locations that we're looking at for sure.
Okay, then tell me a little bit about the business itself. I like the tagline on the website. Moving should be an adventure, not a chore. Can you talk a little bit about that and like I guess what your guys in terms of your purpose and mission and what you're doing?
Yeah, it's for us. It's in the industry. It's a lot about the labor. The movers are the labor, but in our company, the movers are the talent, and it's a very different mindset.
Yeah.
And we've gone as far as outlawing the word labor. And it's about safety, prioritizing safety. It's about recognition, and there's prizes for quality of service and for safety and for so many other things. But it's just sort of the movers care, and they're good, conscientious people, and they want to do a great job. So because they care, it comes through in our service, and it puts our customers at ease.
Are you finding it? You don't talk about labor, but are you finding it difficult, like everybody else out there, finding people these days?
More and more, yeah. I mean, it's been an adventure through COVID with low interest rates and with all this stimulus. The housing market was on fire, and so moving companies have been drinking through the fire hose. And so,
Oh yeah.
the battle, to have the best labor has been real for us. But we really, our differentiator is we're trying to be the employer of choice, and we think that's the best strategy to win. There's a lot of market share for us to take on, and it's all about having the best people.
So Addison, when you started this journey in the entrepreneurship world, just curious, what were you doing before you got into this?
Well, I had a landscaping business and a small moving business when I was in high school, really, and then I was working for a company out of I'm from Winnipeg originally, and I was working for a property manager. And anyway, a lot of the tenants needed moving service, and that's how I kind of got into the moving industry. And then my former business partner, who just retired earlier this year, Stu Starkey, he had got involved in these guys with Two Small Men and invited me along for the ride.
Oh, okay. Then what do you enjoy about being an entrepreneur?
It's the it's the challenge of it. It's about learning and developing my skills and learning and reading from others that have been here before. And I just find it very energizing, looking inward and trying to do better all the time and growing a company. It's the adventure of it.
What about the flip side of things? What don't you enjoy about being an entrepreneur?
Well, at the start, you have to be this generalist. You have to do everything, and you have to do stuff you're great at, and stuff you're no good at all at. And that's one of the things I love most now about this part of my career is that you can hire great people to do that stuff that you're not so great at. I'm more on the idea and the deal and the strategy, but in compliance and these different things. This is not my skill set, and I'm sure many entrepreneurs would align with that.
Yeah. So as you look back, well, maybe not even look back, but even now on this journey, what are the kind of things that helped you along the way in terms of people? I don't know, books you read, any mentors? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. There's been a lot, a couple of great books, Good to Great, Jim Collins, Drive, Daniel Pink. But the thing that comes to mind most of all is the Entrepreneurs Organization. So it's a global organization of entrepreneurs, and I'm a Calgary chapter member, and I'm part of a forum there with 7 other guys, and 7 other entrepreneurs on their own journey, and making mistakes and having successes and learning from their experience. That's been a major differentiator for me, for sure. EO Calgary.
Okay, what have you learned in the past? Obviously, we've gone through a couple of difficult years with the pandemic and its subsequent impact on everything in our lives. But what did you learn through that period of time? Did you have Did you have to change business at all in any way?
Yeah, in many ways, I guess the big lesson is that there's good years and bad years, and you got to make hay while the sun's shining, and conserve and prepare. I mean, now we're on the other side of it. I said earlier we were drinking through the fire hose for those years. Well, now the Bank of Canada is increasing rates, and real estate activity has slowed down tremendously. Yeah. So you got to conserve through those good times to be ready to take on the bad ones.
And I guess in your industry, obviously, as you mentioned, the real estate market really fuels everything, right? And that real estate market can be different, if you're in Calgary or if you're in Toronto or whatever, yeah. Right? So activity may be high in Calgary at a certain time, but it may not be so in Regina, say, for instance, right?
Yeah, well, that's really the beauty of the multi-location. In the last couple of months, Winnipeg has been the highest grossing market somehow. Beating out Vancouver and Calgary. The market's just been super, super hot there, and so that's absolutely true.
So I just thought came to mind. So do you just deal in residential, or do you do commercial moves as well?
We do some commercial too, but the residential is really our bread and butter. And we started as a local mover, and we're breaking meaningfully into long haul moving as well. We have in our market our many of our competitors. It's hard to find a guaranteed price, and it's really stressful for the customer to not understand what the final price is going to be. And so we're trying to offer, you can find it in the market at a real premium, a guaranteed price. And we're trying to offer more of a value guaranteed price. And it's been a really a winning strategy so we're breaking meaningfully into the long haul business and in regional hauling from Winnipeg to Victoria.
Oh, okay. And wonderful. So obviously being an entrepreneur takes a lot of time out of your day. A lot of people talk about it being 24/7, always on the go. What do you do to relax? Or what do you do to kind of de-stress, I guess?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot would agree. Like, I really like all the action all the time.
Yeah.
And we were always growing the business and renovating the house and doing all kinds of things. But now we have kids. I have a 20-month-old daughter, Ella, and a 7-week-old son, Henry. And every day is really about getting things done so I can carve out that dedicated time. One of the strategies has been, we bought a cottage last year at Lake of the Woods, and which is just 2 hours from Winnipeg. There's lots of beautiful cottage country outside of Winnipeg, and so we get out there as a family. We had our first summer down there. We can have the grandparents out, and my parents and Alexa's parents out on the weekends and just be together. I can work remote now, and I can work from anywhere. So that's, it's all about getting that quality time in, and that's one thing we really leverage to support that is the cottage.
Do you have any interests like in terms of hobbies or passions that you do?
Yeah. I mean, I'm an avid skier, and I love to be on the mountain, and I spend a lot of time with my EO buddies, supporting each other, yeah. But being a dad, and especially having the second one now, it's the best thing ever. But there's no question it's a challenge. So it's certainly taken a lot of my energy these days.
So I want to just go back a little bit here to talking about as you said, your EO buddies.
Yeah.
What do you think it takes to be an entrepreneur?
I think the big thing is to understand that it doesn't all happen at once. To set a vision and set a course and look out there 10 years, 15 years, and break it down into smaller steps. I've been guilty before in the past of just waiting for something to happen. There's going to be some windfall. It's going to make or change everything. But really, it's about breaking things down into smaller steps. Where do I have to be at the end of this year to be there in 10 years? Where do I have to be there at the end of this quarter to be there at the end of the year? What do I have to do today in order to achieve that goal? And so I think it's all about understanding. It's all about incremental projects or progress and breaking it down into smaller steps.
Yeah. And, it is a journey, isn't it? Right. It's not something I think a lot of people are like a talent, say hockey player or whatever, basketball player, and your God-given talent, right? This really takes hard work, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And you have to be able to do that introspection, look in the mirror and understand where you went wrong and get better.
Yeah. And if you weren't doing this, what do you think you would be doing as a career?
Well, this is the only thing. To be an entrepreneur, it's been such an exciting ride, and I can't imagine doing anything else.
Okay, so wonderful. Thanks, Addison, for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Mario.
All right, that was Addison Parfenuck, who is CEO of Two Small Men with Big Hearts Moving. I'm Mario Toneguzzi with Calgary's podcast on Canada's Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us today.